from the BBC World Service in association with ABC and All India Radio. This is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell and I'm in Birmingham this week ahead of the Commonwealth Games because I will be calling the cricket. It's women's T20 cricket making its debut at the Games, one of 20 different sports here. And in fact, cricket and netball are the only sports at this Games that don't have a male equivalent event alongside them. There was men's 50-over cricket at the Kuala Lumpur Commonwealth Games back in 1998. South Africa won gold there. But this is women's cricket. It's the T20. And, well, chance for Australia to try and add a Commonwealth gold to the 50-over and T20 titles that they already own. Speaking of Aussies, very happy birthday, Jim Maxwell, to you.
Ali, thank you very much. It's been one of those lovely days in the middle of winter in Sydney, 19 degrees, sunshine, and an opportunity to catch up with a few friends at a nice little golf club. It's been drenched by all this rain, but we were there on the balcony enjoying a little bit of repartee and some reminisce, so it was good fun. Hopefully, we get some cheer at Birmingham when everything starts to parade itself, particularly the cricket.
I'm Sunil Gupta for All India Radio here in New Delhi. Once again, happy birthday, Jim. And an interesting thing, despite India winning the ODI series in the West Indies 3-0, cricket for once is off the sports headlines because the big news, as you might have read, is about our star javelin thrower, Neeraj Chopra, who's the only Indian athlete to win a gold in the Olympics in athletics or track and field. That is the news of the hour and the news of the week from India this week.
It's rare for cricket to be pipped off the news agenda. I tell you what's pipping cricket and even competing with the Commonwealth over here is the Lionesses and the England women's team in the final of the European Championship. So that one at Wembley, that is certainly a biggie, and it's taking place as the Commonwealth Games gets underway as well. But good to have you with us, Sanu, and happy birthday again, Jim. But first, on Stumped this week, we're going to hear the reasons why the reigning one-day international world cricketer of the year in the women's game, Lizelle Lee, shocked everyone, including her own teammates, by quitting the international game in the middle of her country's recent tour of England. Now, there has been much speculation about the reasons why ever since. It means she misses the Commonwealth Games, an event where South Africa would have been hoping for, expecting a good showing. They made the semi-finals of the last two World Cup events, but they're now coming off the back of a dismal multi-format series against England, where they lost all 6 white ball games that they played. They were playing not only without their captain, Dane van Niekerk, who was injured, but also without Lee, one of the world's hardest hitting and most experienced batters. Now, in the days after her sudden retirement, a report emerged saying South Africa had threatened to prevent Lee from playing in T20 leagues. There was a suggestion from within Cricket South Africa that Lee was a disruptive influence in the dressing room. That was followed by a media release from Cricket South Africa that sought to discredit both of those reports. Well, Lee has decided to tell Stumped exactly why she retired. We approached Cricket South Africa for comment, and you'll hear their response at the end. Here is Lizelle Lee then, speaking to me from a temporary base in Bath in the UK, where she's staying with her wife and baby son, explaining the events that led to her quitting the international game mid-tour.
I think it came as a bit of a shock to a lot of people. I had it in the back of my head for a while, but I never thought I would do it in the middle of a tour. But just before I came on tour, I had to do a retesting, which was an official testing, which I had to do.
A fitness test.
Yeah, basically, which I had to do back in Northwest. I was at the time, we were at my parents' house in Admiralua, so driving 3.5 hours that way, 3.5 hours back just for a fitness test. I didn't want to do that. So basically they said they'll organize for me to do it with somebody in Admiralua at that time, which was in the afternoon. So they called her, they set everything up and everything was fine. It was basically just my weight and my skin folds. So when I got to the lady who had to do my skin folds, I told her, I'm not going to do my weight, because I already did it the morning and because it fluctuates. and it's small margins, I'm not going to do it there, because if that's over, they're going to send it back and I won't be eligible for selection to go to England. And they were, okay, fine, you're coming on tour, everything is fine. When we got on tour, I think it was the second day, I did the skin folds and the weigh-in again. So the skin folds were down, I think like 2 or something, and my weight wasn't even close to where I thought it would be. After the test match, they called me in for a meeting saying they don't understand what's wrong. How can my weight be so different from where it was when I weighed it? During that time, they did call the lady where I did it, and she said that I did not do my weight with her. I did it at home, which is true.
Okay.
Yeah, again, nothing happened for a while. And then I think it was just a half an hour before we went to training, I was all ready to go. Got a message from our manager saying I have a meeting with him and somebody from CSA in the next 5 minutes. And they told me because of what's happened and there wasn't official testing, I didn't do my weight with her as well. And there's a difference. I'm not eligible for selection anymore. And then I have to go home immediately. And with that, they will take away my NOC to participate in the 100 and Big Bash. So I have to go back home, try and get that sorted, and then they will give me my NOC. What was going through my mind at the time is like, I can't fly home now because with my family, the baby, flying there for a few hours, 11 hours, it's a long journey. That just wasn't an option at the moment. And financially, that would have been a big blow as well, because it's a lot of money traveling back and forth all the time because we had to come back for the 100 again. And they were right to do that because it's in our contracts. Our contracts state that if you don't make the fitness, they can pull your NOC. So yeah, called my agent and he's like, okay, what do you want to do? And I was like, I'm going to retire then. And he called the person that was with us in the meeting saying, listen, this is the choice you made. I think the same day or either the next day, we had a meeting and they were like, they're really sad to see me go, but if there's no other way, then they respect my decision. So there was no real thing about what can we do to make you stay or anything like that. It was just, okay, it's sad, but we respect your decision.
And that's where you are at the moment. So am I right in saying then it sounds like there were three things at play from Cricket South Africa's point of view, that you didn't weigh yourself in the way that you were meant to, but then your weight, when it was measured by Cricket South Africa, that it wasn't where it was meant to be.
Yes.
And then the NOC issue came up, but that was sort of within the contractual right of Cricket South Africa to do that. What to you makes you fit for cricket?
Well, definitely not my weight. I mean, I made the fitness physically. I did the running that I had to do. So basically, I'm fit to play. And I told them, you dropping me because the way I look and the way how much I weigh. And they said, no, we're dropping you because you failed the fitness battery. I said, yes, okay. But if you break the fitness battery down, what did I not make? I made the fitness, the running, but I didn't make my weight. So you're dropping me because of weight. So as a woman, that breaks me. That honestly, that is probably one of the toughest things to hear, is say you're not being able to play for a team because you weigh too much or whatever the case might be. So that was just, I spoke to Tanya about it so many times, because at night at home, I would sit in my bed crying because what am I going to do about my weight? I've been struggling with this for so long.
Tanya being your wife?
Tanya, my wife. Yes, I know it's what you put in your body and you have to train and everything, but it's not always that easy.
So when you do fitness tests, and if the weight as a standalone point is an issue, what support have you been given? What support is there to then go away and try and bring it to the level that Cricket South Africa wants?
I never gotten any support from CSA with that. I mean, they never asked me, what do you need? What can we do to help you to lose weight? That's something I've always done on my own. I mean, at the end of the day, it's what you eat. It's training and stuff, and it's tough because it's emotionally, it's breaking me down. And I think I just got to that point of saying, listen, so you're not thinking about my cricket skills, you're not thinking that I made the actual running fitness, you're just thinking about my weight and not picking me then. So emotionally, that is just so draining, and I just couldn't do it anymore.
So do you feel that you are cricket fit? You are where you would want to be in terms of your skills, in terms of everything else? You can still function well as an international cricketer with your parameters that you're at right now?
Yeah, look, skills-wise, I'm not going to lose that because of fitness. I will never lose that because of fitness. I can still do the job. Yes, I don't look the way I need to look, and I know that. As a person,
that's interesting.
I don't feel...
I was going to say, that's just, sorry to interrupt, but that's interesting in itself. You say you don't look the way you need to look. As a sport, is it right that athletes sort of need to look a certain way, or should it just be about the way you can perform whatever you actually look like? But is that a function of professionalism? Do you feel that the game is starting to judge its athletes, its cricketers, on the way they look on the field?
Well, it feels like it. I don't think it should be, but it feels like it from a personal point of view. I mean, and personally, I know I don't look like an athlete, but that doesn't mean I can't do my job. I don't even look at myself in the mirror anymore because I don't like the way I look. So, but that just comes along because every time I'm at, like, in camp or everything, it's always about my weight. So that, like I said, emotionally, it just breaks a person down.
Has there ever been a time when you have felt the need to lose weight quickly, say, or in any way that might not have been healthy for you? Or do you worry that others might feel that way as well?
I know a few people have felt that way before, and yes, it has crossed my mind. And I actually spoke to our team doctor before they dropped me in Ireland. I was like, what do you want me to do? Put my finger in my mouth before testing? So yeah, it definitely crosses my mind so many times, because I don't know, how do you lose weight quickly without it not being healthy? It can't be healthy. There's just no way. So not eating comes to mind. I've tried that. But obviously you need to eat because you have so much training to do. So, and like I've said, this has been coming for a few years now, and I think this past year just made it so much worse. And I think the other thing what they don't always understand is, especially when you're on tour, you don't have the facilities you have at home. So you normally, what are you going to eat? You're going to eat food that is not healthy. And we're on tour a lot. I mean, during the whole year, I would say 90% of my time, I'm not at home.
And could you see any way back into the international fold from here?
To be honest with you, at the moment, as things stands, no. I do think management needs to be changed. A few people needs to change, and there has to be fairness across the board. And I don't think that will change overnight. So no, not at this moment.
Lizelle, appreciate you talking and sharing. Good luck, certainly, for the 100. And you are a huge miss in international cricket, but wish you all the best going forward, and with your family as well.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. And thank you for letting me tell my story. I really appreciate it.
Well, that was former South Africa batter Lizelle Lee, who walked away from the international game in the middle of South Africa's tour of England ahead of the Commonwealth Games. And she departs as the country's leading run scorer in international T20s and their second highest run scorer in ODIs. Now, we did contact Cricket South Africa, and they have confirmed that the reason Lee was declared ineligible for the matches against England was for failing to meet their workload and fitness standards, something which, as you heard, Lizelle has taken responsibility for. And they've confirmed that that was the reason why they exercised their right to not grant an NOC, that's a no objection certificate, which would have meant that she wouldn't have been able to take part in leagues around the world until she'd met and then maintained those standards that CSA set out. We understand that Lee was told in writing that the Cricket South Africa medical team would get in touch about the support to be provided to help with a programme aimed at helping her meet those fitness standards. There has been no comment from them, however, on Lee's assertion of double standards, in that another player had failed fitness test but hasn't, to Lee's knowledge to date, had any NOC revoked. So quite a bit there, Jim and Sunil. First of all, it did really strike me when she used that word, I don't look the way I'm meant to look. Do cricketers need to look a certain way? I mean, we're not privy to the exact weight parameters or how that is calculated, or what Cricket South Africa say benchmarks they're setting, but this way that cricketers have to look a certain way.
There seems to be some communication issue between Lizelle and the South African administration, because they haven't clearly had a robust enough discussion about all this. She shouldn't be discriminated against because of her avoirdupois. But it's clear that the South Africans have put out a bit of a message there that you need to be a little bit thinner, as confusing as the discussion has been.
And Sunil, she's just been signed for Hobart Hurricanes in the WBBL. And notably, when you play domestic cricket at that level, you don't go through those sort of fitness parameters. And she might well have a barnstorming season for them as well. I mean, she was the ODI Player of the Year in 2021. Admittedly, she did have a poor World Cup at the start of this year in New Zealand. But, to what extent do you think that the way a cricketer looks or the weight, impacts on performance? Or should, player just simply be judged on form, what you're actually doing in the middle?
Yeah, well, there are 2 or 3 things about this. I was listening very closely. I've read the transcript, and there's a little bit of justification of where she is. She realizes she did some things that were not quite right. Let me read out something to you which you might find interesting. This was regarding the famous or infamous yo-yo test. This was since Virat Kohli became the captain of India, all 3 formats. I think that's one of the keys. We're talking about, Colin Milburn and Colin Cowdrey. They were only playing Test cricket at that time, really. The parameters for selection have changed. The team management has now decided that a player is selected in the Indian squad only if he passes something called the yo-yo test. And even if the India A players are selected on this basis, then if they're not good enough to pass the yo-yo test, they will not be in the Indian squad. Now, same thing happened. And guess who lost out in the initial phases? Yuvraj Singh, Mohammad Shami, Washington Sundar. We're talking big names who did not pass the yo-yo test. Now, if that is mandated, then that is mandated. So I think that there are certain things that she needs to look at. I think she understands that. But right now, obviously, you feel bad as a player, somebody who's the ODI International Cricketer of the Year, somebody who's been a part of the team since 2013.
It certainly felt as if the weight is something that Lascelles has struggled with throughout a number of years. And I think possibly more concerning is her assertion that she hasn't felt adequately supported enough in managing that. And that might be to do with South Africa's resources as well. But this question of, I guess, being fit for cricket and the parameters by which fitness is viewed and measured, and now the women's game being more professional as well. We wish her all the best in her future endeavours. And that is all we've got time for on this week's Stumped. So I'll say thank you to Jim Maxwell and to Sunil Gupta. And of course to you all for listening. And we'll see you again next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and All India Radio, this is Stumped.